haven't done it the last couple of weeks because it's been just, a single person for much of it. And I thought, well, this isn't that interesting. But then as I think about it,
Which
it was
is
interesting. So.
like today is a single person.
Yeah, yeah, but I think it was a mistake for me to say, "Hey, a single person isn't that interesting." Because last week, me and Brandon Jordan were talking, and we talked about some really cool stuff. We got kind of deep on Git and just source control and all that kind of stuff, and it was good. And I think people would have benefited from listening to it. So it was a mistake not to record it. So I hit it. So we're recording now. So no pressure though. The only
No,
people that will ever see the link to it are the supporters. So the people who should be here anyway. So
so yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. So I mean, it's hard enough though, right? I mean, I have a hard time being face to face with Americans who speak the same English I do, and we still miscommunicate. And we still don't understand each other, and requirements are we talk about what the system should do, and it's hard to understand what it is that somebody's really asking for, right? And I mean, it's got to be that much more when you're dealing with Belarusian developers, and and you're Italian, and these language gaps that you have. I don't know how you can even come close to figuring out how to communicate. Am I way
well,
off on that?
yeah, it becomes a little bit difficult, but on it's a little bit of how you communicate with others, and probably the fact that English is not my first language is what helps, because I learned how to communicate with Americans itself, so it's
Mm,
easier
yeah.
for me. And I tend to use a lot of analogies and a lot of explaining use cases instead to directly, this is what we need to do, and trying to use the same words for trying to get the common language and use it all the time. So never change the meanings or terms for something.
Yeah, that makes
It's the
sense.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you have to be more careful already because of just not, having some of those gaps, that a cultural difference, I imagine,
Mhm.
and then, yeah, so it makes you more careful about it, more double checking that you understand what you communicated.
Yeah, no, and also on the other side is that it's trying to get the understand the cultural aspects, the difference that it can be on one side or the other. I don't care so much if they try to learn my culture. I don't. It's okay. I try to adapt to theirs. In this case with the Belarusians, I know I have been already a couple times over there. I know all of them,
Mm.
but I learn details about how their culture when they have holidays, what is each holidays, details when winters, what they eat, what's the style of living that they have.
Mm.
So that
Yeah.
that helps a lot. And on top of that, then I always say I respect their time.
Oh, cool.
So that, and then when they have to stay late or have to be in a call 4 o'clock in the afternoon in New York City, but over there is 11 o'clock at night, they're okay.
Yeah,
They
that makes sense. Yeah.
they're okay because they know that usually we'll try to talk to them earlier. But
Yeah. 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 Just making an effort goes a long way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, okay, well, we know that you're gonna wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning for you to talk to me. This
Yeah.
time is gonna be my side. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're speaking English with people from Belarus, and you've got some communities, I guess, where you are in New York. Do you speak a lot of Italian with people around you?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
and Spanish as well, which is
Oh,
my
okay.
second. Yeah, yeah. So my wife, with my wife, I speak a lot of Spanish.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. She's a Latino heritage, so
Did you meet her here, or were you
here,
married before you? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I met her here.
Oh, neat. That's cool. Well, I
Yeah.
speak a little bit of Spanish, but it's not so good. My dad is a fluent Spanish speaker, and he spoke English was his second language. He spoke Spanish before he spoke English,
Mhm.
and yeah, my grandparents' house, it was that they would it was always a mix. Start a sentence in Spanish and finish it in English, or the other way around. And so yeah, I got some exposure to that, but I never really, my mom was not a Spanish speaker, and so I never really practiced it a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm not really conversant. So I went to Mexico a few weeks ago on a vacation, and I did okay, trying to communicate with some of the people working there, and some of that I have to ask them to slow down, and I miss a lot and have to get them to repeat things, but I can sort of communicate. So I felt all right about that. I think if I did, immerse myself, if I was in a place where I had to use Spanish to communicate, I don't think it would take long for me to really get fluent with it.
Yeah, I think actually any language you need to be immersed into.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the same. It's the same as programming.
that's
Mm,
true.
Honestly, trying to learn a language just reading the books or just following a video.
Yeah, yeah, it's the same word for a reason, right? Language is really what it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
So unless you are doing a project, then is when you will learn, and even then, you need to do many projects.
yeah, yeah. Well, and two, I mean, Italian. When I was in Italy, which was ages ago, was it 20 years ago? At least
Wow.
15 years ago. It was a long time ago. Um, my knowledge of Spanish, helped me to pick up on some things, right? I could recognize some words, and I was far from being able to communicate, but I could, I could look at a menu in a restaurant and sort of kind of get the gist of what some of the foods were, or something like that. So it was helpful, but of
Yeah.
course, I really anywhere in Europe they'll speak English to you, so it was not that I really had to do a lot of trying to communicate anyway.
Yes, that's true. Actually, that is true. Almost the young generations and all the cities they speak in English even better than Americans.
Yeah, yeah. That was my experience with it. Was that, yeah,
So
pretty much everybody spoke English. It was kind of funny that I bought a Roma T-shirt, and I was wearing that in Paris, and as I'm walking down the street, people were speaking Italian to me, and I was, no, no, non parlo italiano. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah, now back to the Spanish Italian is it's interesting because the both languages they have the same root, and that's the reason probably why for you was easy. And most of the people that they speak in Spanish or Italian, it's easy to exchange
yeah,
and learn
yeah.
the other language. Which
Yeah, I imagine Portuguese is probably pretty similar as well.
not so much.
Really?
Is Yeah, because it's a very it's not an evolved language as Spanish and Italian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's more romance than the two of them.
Oh,
The
okay.
Italian.
French is probably closer than Portuguese then, I guess.
No, French has the Gaelic in the
Oh,
but yeah.
okay. I
Going,
have no idea what I'm talking about.
going back to computer languages, that will be like C sharp with their functional aspects.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's an object-oriented language, but it's functional as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a complete different stuff to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's JavaScript, right?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
looks a lot
Java.
like C sharp, but it means something completely different.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Nah, don't even try to do that,
Yeah.
or don't try to do in in this other language what you can do in JavaScript, because it's
Yeah.
not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
it's funny too, trying to use what I know about C sharp to do something in Java. I mean, the language is so easily recognizable, and it means the same thing. And it's essentially, I told John Skeet that they're basically the same language, and he corrected me on that. Of course, they're not basically the same language, but they basically are, right? But the idioms, the ways of doing things, the conventions, the world of Maven, and Tomcat, and all of those things is there's so many things to know that you don't necessarily know. From my perspective of being C sharp, so many things to learn to be able to actually do something, right? I mean, the language is easy, but there are all these. I guess it's kind of like a culture, right? It's kind of these cultural things that are different, that make it not trivial to just step in and do something immediately.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's what it makes it the little differences, but it looks similar, but it's not the same. So yeah, exactly. That
Yeah.
will be Portuguese with Italian and Spanish, and so in Italian and Spanish will be C sharp Java.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah. So
Yeah,
what languages do you use at work?
at work usually C sharp, Python, JavaScript, whatever. Right now I'm not even developing anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been for 3 years. I haven't touched a line of code.
Oh, really? Yeah. So dealing with managing offshore teams and stuff like that, is that primarily what you do?
That's primarily what I do. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's what I do. Sometimes I have to jump in and, well, not sometimes. Most of my time is architecting the solution, and
Hmm.
so indicating how we're gonna solve the solution. They
Yeah.
take care of doing all the grunt work. They code, and I'm just going to see. Okay, this looks. We are on the path.
Yeah.
So I can read the code, I can see it, but don't ask me to write a piece of code right now.
Do you miss it?
Actually, yes, and I
Yeah.
feel like soon I'm gonna have to stop that part and jump into. The problem is that as a developer, unless you go to good companies as a developer, you don't get paid as well as a manager.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And sadly, we need money, especially for our toys. Our toys are not cheap.
That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's an age-old thing, right? To really advance, there's that non-technical is pretty much the path forward. Unless there is, I mean, there's architect positions, right? But then it's still, I mean, there's only so high you can go in a technical position, and
Which actually is what I do, but even as an architect, you start to detach yourself from the day-by-day coding.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you understand what's happening, you understand everything. You could see the code, you could create pieces of code,
yeah,
but
yeah,
most of the time that code is not going to go in production
yeah,
unless you're
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, code review is probably the closest you get to code as an architect
Which
most of
is
the time.
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
most of the time what I do is code reviewing and checking what they are doing,
yeah,
checking every pull request and see, okay, this goes based on our standards and follows that. Okay, they are doing a good exception management here, which is
yeah.
a huge battle. Oh God, I can't believe developers are still not understanding how to do exception management. It's like, guys, come on, do it right.
Well, that's a good question though. What does right mean, right? Because I think that there are, well, I think there's a lot of bad advice out there about how to handle exceptions, and I mean, a lot of times in my web applications, having a good global exception handler is a pretty good way to handle most of what happens, right? I don't necessarily have try catches all over the place. I mean, if I'm expecting that a certain type of exception can happen in something, well, often that means that I should be defending against that rather than creating the exception handler in the first place. So I mean, it depends. There are a lot of things, but it's a bit of a soft science as far as what good exception handling is, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, it is. It is also it is a little bit of understanding how what your code is doing. If you're connecting to a database, you really want to start to catch in exceptions there because you know that that connection could fail
Yeah,
or that insert or whatever you're doing with the database, it could fail in some moment. So you want to manage that aspect and you want to see how you can recover from it.
yeah,
if you have inside your code and you just say big exception, and what you are doing is just logging, catch any exception, just log the exception, and that's it. That's all that we're gonna do. Well, I don't know exactly what happened there, unless I start to tracing the code. And once that started to bubbling up, it's like you just catch one point and you just block the whole thing, and nothing's gonna be on the top because now you're not passing back the values that I suspected. It's gonna break up on the top, and things are getting crazy.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes returning an error is the right thing to do because
yes,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
return the error, but also log the reason why. Try to figure out how to return what error you have to return, and then go on the top and start to where it was a call and start to managing in a different ways.
yeah,
That's something that is very difficult, and it's true. It is a philosophy how to manage exceptions,
yeah,
but
yeah.
exception handling is something that developers will need to work on a lot.
Yeah, yeah. But I like the example of a database, right? Or any kind of dependency that, especially if you're dealing with a network hop or something like that, right? You know that things are going to go wrong. And so planning for that is
Mhm.
clearly something you need to do.
Yeah, it's actually hilarious. Everybody talks about microservices, and are we doing managing that aspect? What happened if that microservice went down? Can we recover? Can we? No, we don't know. So it's like, we assume it's gonna be there all the time. Well, until it's not there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when microservices means, well, we're going to take a bunch of operations and just move them into different processes. That's a recipe for disaster, right? To me, there's if you're crossing a lot of process boundaries, you're just creating a lot of places for things to go wrong. If
Yeah.
if I think it's a bigger thing, right? If your microservices are creating autonomous components that don't have to depend on each other, right? If you've got a thing that your application needs to do, and that means that you've got a service that needs to call a service that needs to call a service, well, instead of creating autonomous things that can just operate independently, you've just created a whole bunch of different processes that depend on each other in the same way that they depended on each other when they were inside the same process. So you haven't really accomplished anything other than creating a lot more points of failure that can bring down your whole operation, right?
True. True.
But if you can draw smart boundaries around and the definition of the term service, I think, is the thing that often trips us up, because if you start to draw boundaries around things that are actually autonomous and they can manage their own data, and they can return an answer to whatever question it is they're being asked, or they can take a command to perform some operation without having other dependencies. Well, now you're getting somewhere. Now you're starting to have independent things that can be tested and deployed independently. You can have different teams working on them, or whatever, depending on the organization, right?
Hmm.
And but autonomy is the thing, right? Now you're talking about breaking down your problem into smaller problems that are easily solvable,
Hmm.
and that's really moving forward.
Yeah, create subdomains for the main problem.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Sounds like
I
you've read Eric Evans a little bit.
oh yeah, identify those domains and start to creating them as a services instead to just say, oh well, this we can make microservices for it.
Yeah.
Eh, all right, okay. What's the advantage that you're gonna have? Not much, really. You just creating more points of failure, even though sometimes that can be used in our favor. I see it a lot. It's when we have processes that actually creates reports, and our clients sometimes are not the smartest cookies in this planet, and they run monthly report that basically retrieves all their transactions for that month, for not only that month. They go and they say everything that from January 1st until today,
Mm.
That's the report that they want. So every month it starts to growing and growing and growing and growing, and it's kind of hairy when it starts to hit in this time of the year. It's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, the databases, everything goes down just because of those reports.
Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, we are actually working on separating that in small services, only that report as a service and a way to just detect when a service is taken too long, just spin off the other one, having a master on in front that's going to be the one spinning off everything and say, okay, listen, it's a microservice. It's going to be more, this shouldn't be done this way, but it's the best solution that we have right now.
Yeah. Well, you're solving a real problem that you need to be able to deal with. So yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you cannot hold all the persons they're asking for small reports just because one person decided to create a report of on their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me 10 years of data. Whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you going to manage that 10 years of data? I don't know.
Yeah. 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 That's your problem. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a problem, not ours.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
So when I was an architect in an organization, right? We had multiple teams, and my biggest job was kind of understanding the bigger picture, right? So the teams could focus on their own jobs, which I think is really what being an architect is all about. And that, and then making decisions, right, on some of the standard communication mechanisms and how the teams are going to operate with each other, and setting some guidelines. Um, but I mostly decided to let the teams run with what they thought were the best decisions within their boundaries, right? And I think that worked out really well. But I also did create kind of some common libraries, some of the cross-cutting types of things, some of the logging and dependency injection and some things that could be used across the different teams. That was kind of one of the things that I was able to still get some coding in, because I was working on maintaining some of these standard libraries that were shared for some things that everybody had to do. So that was kind of, it depends. Every organization is different too, but some of those kinds of things, I was able to kind of keep a little bit of code under my belt, so that I had something to bang on the keyboard a little bit too.
Well, yeah. Creating. Personally, I prefer leaving that to the developers, telling them, you guys have that power. Just what do you want to do? You want to use this? Okay, why? For
Yeah,
what? Mm, it's a is a valid reason for this. And then when it's mostly solutions, how are we gonna solve them? Something is too big, I decide to make a big meeting and call everybody that's involved, and sometimes even from outside, from other teams, and say, hey, this is the problem. What's the solution that you guys want to use? This, that. Okay, this is how I see it. This you are trying to solve in this sort of solution. What the rest think?
yeah, yeah,
So I put it to voting. Then I'm like, okay, if everybody says one direction, we go that direction.
yeah, yeah. That's cool. Yeah,
I say, well, eh, if you guys are against me, no problem. You build
yeah.
it, you build it, you own it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's some humility too there, that even though I have an opinion is different, right? If you can justify it to me, here are the reasons why. Hey, that goes a long way. It's interesting about the voting. I would think that the team that is actually the one in question that has this problem to solve, their vote has to count more than what the other teams, and that they have more context on this thing. Is that true in your situation?
Yes, yes, definitely. But when I ask other teams, is mostly, or the leads of the other teams is mostly to see, okay, you guys are going to be interacting with this at the same time. So how you guys will approach it instead.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to be the person that's going to be looking at the final product, but you guys are going to be working on this and fixing problems here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially around contract kinds of things, right? Where it's going to impact how the other team needs to consume it, then yeah, clearly
Yeah.
that's a different matter that is probably more in your realm than really the teams, right? As the architect, making sure that the communication between the teams is it is smooth and it serves the needs of the overall system. That
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, definitely. And on my side is more, it serves the needs of the system. Will it work? Yes. Will it be efficient? Perfect. It will communicate with the rest. Okay. Now, how you guys want it?
yeah,
You want an integer here, or you want a boolean? That's all. Do you guys don't think that we're gonna have more than one or more than two options? Just, I
yeah.
think I see one, but everybody sees two. Well, all right, two. It's good. Let's go with two for now.
Yeah, yeah,
Or sometimes I have to say, well, you know what? Let's go baby steps. This time, let's do step one, and we do only zeros and one, and then tomorrow we can think about more.
yeah, yeah. Knowing when to push on something and when to the right battles to fight, I guess, is kind of
Hmm.
the
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But sometimes it's also to reduce headaches with the developers itself,
yeah, yeah.
because
So
we developers, we tend to be really bad on estimating our time. It's gonna take me a couple hours.
yeah,
At the end of the day, we're like, oh my god, huh? It's the end of the day. I'm not done. Yeah, when you start at 10 o'clock, and you say 2 hours.
yeah, yeah. But we know we're terrible at it, and we still, that doesn't fix it, right? We can never get it right.
I think the reason why we still doing it is because if we say the real number, once you have some experience, you know how long it will really take. You say, okay, it's gonna take me 2 hours, but I'm gonna have to multiply this by three because I know it's gonna happen. The things that it's not gonna allow me to be 2 hours.
Yeah,
So when you
yeah,
say 6 hours, everybody's gonna look at you like, how is it possible? It's a simple thing, and you're like,
yeah.
yeah, but I know it's not gonna take me 2 hours.
Yeah, somebody's going to show up at my desk at some point during those 2 hours asking me a question, and then I'm going to have a problem with I can't get my command line to launch, or that doesn't make any sense. Command lines always launch, but something happens in your environment where you can't build the code for whatever reason, and yeah, there's always unexpected things that you never would have thought.
Yes, it's always something like that, or you're walking to the going to the bathroom, somebody stops you and start to talking to you, and when you realize, like, oops, 10 minutes gone.
Yeah,
Okay, cool, nice. Now 10 minutes gone. My head is completely distracted. I don't know where I am.
yeah,
Go back, go back to the desk, and you need to grasp and start to reading what you were doing, and all of a sudden you're like, what I was doing here?
yeah,
Oh my God! No, let me fix this. Okay, go back to fix it. What it was working. Why you are fixing it? Because just because doesn't look good now after you step back,
yeah,
which is usually what happens, and start to taking longer. Or I'm not sure what I'm doing right now. I think let me test. Let me make sure that this will compile. Let me make sure that the unit test runs.
yeah,
So just let me make sure is what it takes a lot of time.
yeah,
But again, what I say, what I think the problem why we tend to lie to ourselves is the fact that if we say out loud to those that they don't really know what we are doing, how long it's gonna be taking, they're always gonna say, "How's it possible? A day to do that? Come on, it's only changing two things. It's only a
Yeah.
button. It's only a button. You click that button and it will do everything. Yeah. It's only exporting. You're only going to be importing data from an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. We have done that hundreds of times. Yes. Okay. It's
Yeah.
the same. But this time your damn spreadsheet has tabs.
Yeah. Yeah. And that last time when we did it, it took a lot longer than we expected. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. But nobody remembers that. Everybody thinks like, oh, wow, you were taking too long that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. But you forgot that today you want me to do it in shorter than before. Like, no, it's impossible.
Yeah. Well, and developers see it as a contest too, right? Oh, I can do that faster than the other guy, you know.
Yes, yes, and we never want to admit we can be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another thing that
Yeah.
it's like ooh, we
Yeah.
are we are scary.
Yeah.
We
So do you
kill.
have both developers in the office with you and in Belarus, or is it kind of
Uh, I have only two front-end developers in the office with me,
yeah.
and the rest are in Belarus.
Okay.
They're all over there.
Hmm. But like business folks around you and
Oh yeah,
stakeholders and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
all of those guys are all around me.
Yeah. Well, that
Sometimes,
makes sense. That's probably the people you most need to interact with and understand what they need.
yeah, yeah. All of them are around me, and sometimes I just don't want them.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the biggest shift in becoming architect was like, oh my God, my calendar is Tetris now, right? I've
Yes.
got meetings after meetings and have to figure out how to make all that work.
Meetings after meetings, and somebody always comes that puts a meeting without checking your calendar because he's he's busier.
Yeah. Yep.
He's the most important person in the entire company. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. You can move the rest of your stuff around me. Yeah.
So it's like okay. Or the person or the meetings that they are scheduled for half an hour and they are hour and 50 minutes and the person still talking and you are like okay, hey. It was half an hour, we already took 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's more than 45 minutes, we went a lot over our
Yeah.
scheduled time. I have other things to do.
I was in a place once where, I mean, there was a culture such that what is on the calendar is what it is, and we are walking out the door at the moment that it hits the limits of this meeting, and it was beautiful. I mean, that was so nice, and it put some pressure on those meetings that we got to get it done, right? Focus, and I think that was the best thing that and I still hate the environment of being in an office and having to go into all these meetings and all that stuff. But that was such a liberating form of the meeting that the time allotted is the time that it's going to be, and I think it would be great if more companies worked that way.
Yeah, that will be amazing. But sadly, it's not the truth.
Yeah,
And it will be great when you go to a meeting and a decision is made in the meeting. Even if the decision is we need another meeting to take a decision.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah,
but sometimes the meetings they just lead to okay, this is all we're gonna be doing, but I don't know when we're gonna be doing.
yeah,
Oh, great. So it's no actions after the meeting.
yeah. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, corporate functioning is, well, it's not functioning, right? It's dysfunctional. So, but that's the way it goes.
Well, that's the nature sometimes of business.
Yeah,
It's a competition between different teams and different groups,
yeah, yeah.
and
It's
that's
true.
that's how they try to survive.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So why New York? How did you wind up coming to the U.S.?
year 2000, everybody was hiring.
Ah,
Web was crazy. Um,
that's a long
personal
time ago.
Yeah, personal reasons, mostly like, I want to just experience a little bit life outside where I am right now. I wanted to do something different. I basically put my resume online. At that time, Monster.com was coming up.
Ah.
My resume online, and I got so many requests for interviews. I was like, okay, I think I have to go.
Yeah. So
I think
did
I
you just
have to
make it
go.
wide open and I'll interview anywhere?
Oh, oh yeah, 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 yeah. I came and was like, okay, let me do interviews. Let's see what's happening.
Nice. Well, that's cool.
So I knew it was difficult because I needed to have some kind of visa or something. But I was like, okay, upfront, hey, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm not from here. I need a working visa. So
Hmm.
if you can provide that, then I'm your guy. If not,
Yeah.
some of them they entertain the interview, and then they basically say no, we don't do the H1B.
Hmm. Yeah.
But find out a company that they were allowed to do that,
Yeah.
and they
So
wanted to do it.
yeah. Yeah. Are you a citizen now?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Now, yes, after so long, I am.
Sounds like it was difficult for that to happen. Is that right?
No, 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 not
No.
really.
No.
Wasn't that difficult. More like, well, it's been years since I came to this country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so
Well, good. Yeah.
so that's basically why New York. New York basically was my first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of funny. I comment, that episode you were talking about with Rahema. I was kind of like, well, you know what? New York is almost like a foreign country to me. It's pretty different when I go there from Denver. It's
Yes, it is. Boy, it is. Every block of New York is a different country.
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
It's a huge city with so many cultures and languages and everything happening here. That's like
Yeah.
that's what I like of New York.
Yeah, it was kind of the thing that shocked me the most, I think, the first time I went to New York is how, yeah, the people in the subway, it's like nobody looks at you, nobody talks, it's mind your own business. There will be no interaction was kind of the thing that surprised me.
Well,
At least that was my experience.
yeah, yeah, no, it is my experience, and that is something. That's my day by day experience, and that's something that I like.
Yeah.
Of of going in the subway. I don't want to interact with anybody while I'm commuting. I just want to be on my own universe. That's it. But also it's because subways can get extremely crowded. So
Yeah.
when it's so crowded, you just want to be on your own bubble. That's number one, and number two also is a little bit of, I don't know who is the person that is in front of me,
Yeah.
what language does he speak. I don't have any idea, so I don't want to interact anything with this person. I just want
Yeah.
to keep it for myself.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of crazy people around there too.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. It's a lot of crazy people. If you look at them, you can end up in a fight. So it's like, yeah, no, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what happened with with our subways.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, fun place, a lot of neat things. The last time I was in New York, it's been a couple years, maybe 3 or 4 years since I've been to New York. But the September 11th memorial was breathtaking. I mean, it is so amazing what they have done there. I was overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally think I was here for September 11 that moment, and it was sad actually
Yeah.
for me. Going there is sad, but at the same time, I'm like, I think we could have done something better.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not an artist, and nothing I can. That's what they decided.
Yeah. Well, I liked it a lot. I mean, sad, yes. The emotions that I felt going through there were just overwhelming. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess the outside, kind of the pit, kind of it's. I don't know. It moved me, but I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
an artist
yeah,
either. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, exactly. Everybody has different emotions
Yeah,
on those aspects. And to me, maybe I got desensitized because I saw the towers coming down. I saw the whole situation.
yeah. Wow.
So and for a couple of years, we were all the time on the edge over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. How far away were you when it happened?
Uh, mm, Probably 2 miles
Wow.
from it. I was on 23rd Street when that happened.
Wow.
So that's yeah, couple miles,
Wow.
two, two, two and a half.
That's an experience you'll never forget for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I was going to the office at the moment that happened.
Hmm. Wow.
So I was in the street.
Yeah.
So and everybody was running. So the the tough part was also walking from there to my house.
Hmm.
That was a long walk.
Wow. Gosh.
Uh,
No.
yeah, at that time I was living in Queens, so I had to walk all the way uptown, cross
Oh
a
my
bridge,
God.
across the bridge on foot, and then keep walking because there was no way to move around the city.
Wow. Wow. How long did that take you?
3 hours?
Oh my God.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So that was the hard part. But so then that's basically. And the interesting thing is that we were scheduled for the week after to move to Barclay Street, which is right next to it.
Oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
we were scheduled to be moved there, and all of this happened. Of course, we are not moving. We stay in the office where we were. That's all.
Wow. So was the building you were going to move to damaged in it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the building got really badly damaged. Then they had to do removal of dust, the asbestos.
Oh, that's crazy.
So it
Man.
was like mm, the building for 2 years we couldn't go to the building.
Wow. Yeah.
So so
Yeah, that's crazy. I woke up
I
hungover that day. I was out drinking the night before, and yeah. So, but yeah, I was expecting. I was looking forward to getting in my car because I wanted to listen to the radio because the Broncos played football the night before against the
okay.
Giants actually, and one of the Broncos players broke his leg in the game, and so I was really wanting to get in my car to drive to work so that I could listen to what they were saying about him and what his future was going to be, and the status of his injury and getting updates on that, and it was the first tower had already happened when I got in my car, and so nobody was talking about the football player that I was expecting, and that's kind of my memory of the thing is that I was expecting to hear something, and I was so shocked by hearing something else, and then I heard as I was driving, I heard them talking about the second tower, that happened during the time, so
Hmm.
yeah, it was nutty.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad, sad days. Those
Yeah.
days. The funny one was after the year after when we had the blackout.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the East Coast went completely without electricity. We were all jumping like
Oh
terrorist
God.
attack. No, nothing. Terrorist attack, and again,
Yeah.
again have to walk. I was like, come on.
Mm,
So
that's
yeah,
wild. Yeah.
yep. So, but you see, you were saying about people in the subway. We don't talk to each other, and we are like in on our own bubble. But you just mentioned you were looking to get in the car, and that's what happens to most of the other cities. It's like, because you don't have to
Yeah,
take public transportation, you just jump in the car, you're on your own bubble. It's just a little bit bigger.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's true. Yeah, it's a different form of isolation. Yeah.
So that's what we do in public transportation. We're just trying to isolate ourselves.
Yeah,
Headphones are fantastic for that.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I mean, I rode a train, a light rail train in Denver for many years as well, and yeah, headphones when I wanted to isolate, but it was different there. I mean, I would have conversations with a lot of people on the trains in Denver,
Mhm.
but
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a city that I really want to go and visit. Denver. I haven't been at all.
yeah, it's a nice place. I'm really happy here. I mean, I've always lived in Colorado, but I really I can't imagine wanting to live anywhere else. I mean, I love visiting other places, but the climate is so mild here. You know, I mean, it doesn't get that cold, it doesn't get that hot. It's just pleasant most of the time, and
Oh,
it's a
okay.
great place. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't thinking, well, after the winter, I may go over there. If
No, if you live in New York, the winters are much worse in New York than they are in Denver.
Yeah, winters here is kind of today we woke up and it's raining, and I was checking the weather report. We're gonna be having rain all the way up to tomorrow night.
Yeah. Well,
That's
Denver is so dry. It's semi-arid climate, and so the precipitation is pretty small, you know, relative to other places, and it gets, you know, the temperature it will drop, but you know, compared to much more humid places, it's really not that unpleasant when even when it does get cold, and
Mhm.
it's you know, and 300 days of sunshine, I think, is what they usually say is the estimate, you know, every year. So it's a lot more pleasant. It seems like when the Broncos play on national TV, it seems to be the times the snows come, and so we get a bit of reputation for it being colder than it really is. But it's nice. But that's not going to happen tomorrow. The Broncos will be on national TV. Actually, is that here? Actually, I think it's in Kansas City. So I guess that's not going to be another example of that. But
That's the only sport, the only American sport that I haven't really got into.
haven't gotten into it. Yeah,
No, not at all. And it's funny because baseball, I wasn't into baseball until finally I went to a game, and it wasn't the best game. Everybody was saying it's horrible. The Mets versus the Pirates. I was like, to me, it was a blast. I was like, oh, finally, I understand baseball. I went to see the Jets against the Raiders, I think it was. Um,
yeah.
Dog. So I don't understand at all that game.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I'm
what?
the opposite. I think baseball is pretty boring, and football it's not as interesting to me as it used to be. I don't really watch sports like I used to, but football's a lot of fun to watch for me.
Yeah.
But, but yeah, baseball is I have no desire to watch a baseball game.
Yeah. It is like for me rugby.
Yeah.
Most of the people say, what's happening there? Well, I understand. I used to play rugby, so I understand
Oh,
what's going on in there. Yeah.
yeah, that's fun. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I should probably get going. I got
Yeah.
the kids
Exactly.
want my attention, so
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So nice to talk to you.
yeah, nice to talk to you. I look forward to it. And you know, if Sundays sounds like Sundays are probably not that great for you, I'm open to thinking about other times on this thing. So maybe that's something to think about as well.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, usually Sundays we are all around doing
yeah,
doing what we need to do. That's
yeah, yeah. This time was designed to be, you know, something that could work for North America and Europe and Australia, and
Mhm.
you know, I've had less attendance recently anyway, so I think other times might be worth thinking about. But I keep saying that and never do anything about it. So who knows? You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No, if if I happen to be at home, then definitely I will join.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Well,
Okay.
very nice talking to you.
Same. Same.
All right.
All right. Bye.